Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we are returning to Burden of Command, a turn-based tactical wargame and leadership RPG. We've just completed the Sicily campaign. We're about to go into the, I assume the garrison of Sicily. We've just replaced our losses, which we suffered in Sicily, which were pretty extensive. First platoon is led by Lieutenant Camera, because I was promoted after the North Africa campaign to command of the company. I am Captain Butcher, and my replacement was a young idealist who was killed in the last battle in Sicily. Second platoon is commanded by Lieutenant Rao. He's been fighting for about 2 or 3 battles now. He replaced Lieutenant Wilson, who was killed early in the Sicily campaign when an Italian group faked to surrender to him and then murdered him. And then our third platoon, Lieutenant Dearborn, has been with us since the States, and the same for Lieutenant Stern. So 2 of our 3 combat infantry platoon leaders are new. 1 is an original, and our heavy weapons platoon is also an original. We haven't taken too many casualties in our heavy weapons platoons, but they haven't seen too much close action, so their experience levels are lower. The other platoons are of a mixed bag. Our first platoon, first squad is in good shape. They're maxed out experience-wise. Second platoon is almost maxed out. Third platoon is relatively green. We have a 3 out of 5 stars and 4 out of 5 stars in the first and second platoons of second platoon, but then third platoon is completely green with 1 star. And then third platoon is 2, 1, and 5 max. And these guys had been much more experienced, but we ended up taking like 30 casualties in the last battle. And so we had to draw a lot of replacements. We suffered like 20% casualties, probably closer to 30% over the last 2 battles in Sicily. And so the company was shot up. There's still a cadre of experienced soldiers who have fought all the way through North Africa and then also trained with us in the States, but a lot of men are new and missing. I don't know what comes next, so why don't we jump in and see? From Sicily to Italy. 13th October 1943. Soft ground. Okay.
Regarding Sicily and that operation?
Well, I would say this, though, that for the comic thing of it, after the Sicilian campaign was over with, and anyhow, I had to go on a water detail, and we went down to Messina. And they talk about Patton being the first troop, or being in Messina. He didn't come in until quite a few days afterwards for the crowd and everything. But we were there, and they were shelling us from Italy. And anyhow, we had us pinned down behind a building, and one of our guys, which is naturally went out around scouting around and come into a blown out building, and down in the bottom of that was the bottom of a brewery. So anyhow, we had our water cans, and we filled the water cans out of a great big spigot and put beer in them. Well, by the time we got back to the outfit, those cans, the beer was lighter than a pancake, wasn't any good at all. So.
Okay. 19th August 1943, Sicily. The wind is cool to your skin as the Jeep carries you down the road. Even the rumble of the 2.5 trucks behind you in convoy can't dampen the mood. Nickel Company's been off the line for several days now, barracked at a rubbled Italian airbase. Your Jeep rounds the bend and approaches the sprawling grounds of the replacement depot. It's in this olive drab purgatory that soldiers wait for the Army's bureaucracy to catch up with them. Beneath the canvas tarps there lie numerous green crates. Ammunition, rations, parts, impossible to tell. Broken and smashed Jeeps and trucks pack one end of the compound as mechanics salvage what they can to keep other vehicles running. On the open parade ground, 24 men march in full gear, sweltering under the Sicilian sun. God damn it, it double clicks all the time. I don't know what the last comment was. I wish I could click back, but I can't. The usual rigmarole to acquire replacements ensues. Rao's, long accustomed to it, proves invaluable. And so it is thankfully easier this time. With the Germans over across the straits, the demand for riflemen isn't critical. Paperwork is exchanged and a signature made, and then it is time for more important things. Grant steps before the assembled soldiers. They look back to him in stripes, as if he had been a sergeant since Christ was a corporal. Okay. Men, you're now part of the 7th Infantry Regiment, the Cottonbalers, First Sergeant Grant says in a powerful tone that drips with pride. In 1815, your illustrious predecessors earned that name by holding the line against the entire British Army at New Orleans, with nothing except muskets, bayonets, and bales of cotton. The weapons may have changed, but our job is the same. Hold the line, throw the enemy back, and send them running. God damn it, I double-clicked again. It's hard to have the whole atmosphere when a single click ends up being two when you miss half the story. The return to the camp is uneventful. No strafing planes, no snipers, not even a mortar attack. This kind of quiet interlude is good for the men's health, but bad for their minds. You have to devise some maneuvers for them to undertake before they lose their edge. You return to the company billet. Some of the men drill on an open field. Bordered by wheat, nearby an army donkey watches from the shade, munching idly on hay. Hopefully that animal will be out of the way when Patton gives a speech to the Cottonbalers in a few days. A jeep pulls up with Lieutenant Camera at the wheel. He makes his way to you and gives a snappy salute. Good to see you, sir. This time I'll be doing all my driving in daylight. Promise. I don't know what that's a reference to, but this is our replacement for 1st Platoon, Lieutenant Camera. Dude looks like a soldier, unlike maybe the last guy who got himself killed. Have you commanded a platoon in the field? Not outside of drills, Camera admits, but I've seen fighting here on Sicily and had my share of close calls. Okay. I demand instant obedience. I'm more of a cunning soldier when it comes to my method of fighting. But honestly, with all the death and suffering that our troops have suffered, I'd say maybe the men need some looking after. From vitamin deficiency, dysentery, malaria, trench foot, venereal disease, battle fatigue, and the Germans, of course. With Camera taken care of, you step into your office. There's mountains of paperwork waiting, forms, letters, requests, and the occasional recommendation of a citation. It is as if the army wants to keep an eye on fighting something, anything, even if the enemy isn't around. Days pass. Slowly, grudgingly, the replacements become Cottonbalers. Camera puts his men through their paces, marching with them everywhere even when they do punishing 30-mile marches at the trot. He's always been part of the battalion, and the men swiftly learn to respect him. What's his background? Does he come up for the ranks? He's always been a member of the battalion? Is he a lieutenant from another company in the battalion? I don't really know his background. Rao is pitiless as a platoon leader. As he was a Depel commander, he drives his men just as hard as he drives himself. Okay. Dearborn pushes his men hard in training until even the veterans begin to grumble and then lets up a little, which fools the men into thinking that they're being eased up on a lot. Stern's men chew up a lot of ammo on the improvised range. Thankfully, no one at regiment seems to mind. Then, on the appointed day, there comes the assembly on a vast parade ground. 16,000 men watch as a jeep flying the pennant of a 3-star general drives up. General Patton is here to publicly apologize for slapping 2 enlisted men at a field hospital, and the entire 3rd Division is required to attend. Listen through the window of my office. Attend but stay in the back. Take my place at the head of my men. So I lose combat fatigue if I stay in my office. But that would seem to be a little bit iffy if the commanding officer of his men doesn't show up when the 3-star general shows up, so... We'll do this by the book. I'll be at the head of my men. Gray clouds swirl overhead as General Patton, flanked by military police, steps to the podium without a glance sideways. Up close, his uniform is less impressive than his photographs, without a polished helmet or gold braid. Only the twin ivory-handled revolvers at his hips suggest that he's the Sam flamboyant personality you heard about. The men wait in rows, squad by squad, platoon, company, battalion, regiment, and finally division. 20,000 soldiers lending an expectant ear. Really? 20,000 men all in formation? That seems like a bombing target in a combat zone. I don't know that I would do that, but hey, whatever. Take seats, Patton orders. As his high squeaky voice resounding through the ranks, the soldiers sit on their helmets and wait. They know the apology is coming. Men! The men call out as a collective. No! At hearing any contriteness from their beloved general, they shout and clamor, denying him the chance to apologize for several minutes. You could swear that Patton is crying tears of relief at the loyal demonstration. God damn it, I double-clicked again. What the fuck? I'm not even double-clicking. I'm clicking once, but like it's registering as 2. Okay, so he's throwing away the speech. In the Sicilian campaign, we lost some 1,500 of our comrades killed in action. I do not grieve for their death because I thank God that such men have lived. But I do say to you all that it is our sacred duty to see that each of our dead comrades is escorted through the pearly gates by a very large number of enemy dead. The men eat it up. The general has to pause for a moment to let the renewed cheers die down. It's up to us now and hereafter to produce these escorts for our heroic slain. You know that I have never asked one of you to go where I feared to tread. I've been criticized for this, but there are many General Pattons, and there is only one 7th Army. I can be expended, but the 7th must and will be victorious. The men erupt in cheers. Okay. Good speech. A man with a gavel in his throat says from just behind you. A turn of the head finds an officer, a lieutenant, waiting at as the formation breaks up into clumps of talkative GIs. The lieutenant idly strokes his already darkened chin. 5 o'clock has come early. Heard you bumped into him. Heard you knew enough not to promise what you couldn't deliver. Your other officers discreetly hover at the edge of the conversation. I bumped into him? When? Would you be interested in hearing a few inside details, Captain? Glascoe asks. I've got a hot dope about Patton and the slap heard round Sicily. Oh, this dude knows. Dude likes to talk, huh? William Glascoe, quartermaster. I'll be signing off on all your requisitions. Okay. You don't shake hands with the superior lieutenant. I don't want to, like, piss him off. But it is weird he wants to shake my hand. We're not the same rank, dude. But he also is in charge of all my damn requisitions, so... whatever. Quite correct, Captain. An oversight on my part. Would the Captain care to hear the inside story of Patton and the slap heard around Sicily? I mean, I know it, but sure. Everyone also knows that Patton hates cowards. He wants fighters, and fighters blah blah blah. First time it was with Private Cool. Patton asks Cool what's wrong with him and why he's in the tent with the wounded, and Cool says something like, I guess I just can't take it, and Patton slaps him. It was inappropriate, but okay. I'll take the negative combat fatigue, frankly. It's kind of what the doctors figured. See, turns out Cool had the runs for nearly a month, Glascoe explains. They take a look at him, and it's malaria. The man was exhausted, couldn't fight. Doctors hadn't figured that out yet, and Patton wasn't about to wait for them, so he slapped the kid. But it all ended happy because Cool got fixed up and went back to his unit. Patton later apologized to the man in person. That story went nowhere, or at least it should have. What happened? The second slapping was a lot worse than the first, Glascoe explains. Guy named Bennett, artilleryman. He saw one of his buddies get blown up and started acting weird. Didn't want to leave his unit, but they dragged him away to the field hospital, and there he apparently met Patton. Patton didn't like Bennett any more than Cool, him not knowing all about Cool yet. And Patton's been on the go. He's tired too, and Bennett's just rubbing him the wrong way, and so he slaps him. And like before, the docs get the general out of there before he can do worse. Only this time, Patton comes back at Bennett, waving a pistol at one of the pearly-handled pieces he wears. Or is it ivory? I can't remember. Whichever is more expensive. Anyway, Patton's shouting that he'll shoot the son of a bitch, and again, the doctors have to drag him out of there. And so the press got a wind of it. Eventually, Glascoe explains, the docs were the ones who made the complaint. They were pretty ticked off at Patton and having a hypocritical oath, or hypocritical? It's the Hippocratic Oath. Is it hypocritical? It's the Hippocratic Oath. Anyway, of theirs, they kept pushing until the newsies picked up on it. So this crap is all over the place now, and people back home are upset, and lots of jawing, especially from politicians who aren't risking their necks. Patton might lose command of the 7th, and he might have to go home in disgrace. What do you think? Never count out that sort of man. With a grin. Just you think he's down for the count and he'll rise again. Oh, Eisenhower might yell at him a bit. He may get a slap on the wrist, but he'll be back, however he can manage. Gotta admire those sort of guts. Glascoe extracts a cigar from a pocket and then looks at you. If you feel like getting the lowdown on any more juicy bits, pay me a visit. Or maybe I can come to you. I hope to command a weapons platoon one day. No offense, Nate. Stern replies with a steely-eyed glare. Keep hovering, Glasgow. You'll have to take my platoon from my cold, dead hands. Yeah, well, to be fair, we've had 2 platoon leaders lost, so you might get your chance, dude. Your officers shift about, waiting on an informal dismissal. Rao was lost in thought. Alright, I don't need more verbosity. Get out of here, boys. Okay. 3rd platoon is late with its report. When it comes, it's Sergeant Davenport and not Lieutenant Dearborn carrying it. It appears that Dearborn is grave watching. He's been doing that a lot lately. Is Dearborn gonna snap? Sergeant Davenport notes quietly that the smoking little like a chimney. Guys get that part, we all do it, but watching Graves' registration dig a plot is morbid. It's not morbid, actually, but I'll talk to him anyway. You find Lieutenant Dearborn. Outside a temporary cemetery, a cigarette burns down slowly between his fingers. As he watches a unit from Graves' registration go about their grim work. You've only seen him like this once before, after the first battle in Morocco. Hell of a thing. Indeed, Dearborn replies, after a long moment. Dante would certainly agree, though perhaps not all these men are headed to the Inferno. He remembers to take a puff from a cigarette. The ash that scatters from the tip causes him some mild consternation. No need to worry about me, sir, he says, his voice taut. I shall only be a moment. Thinking about the dead? In part, he says as he brushes stray ash from his sleeve. Perhaps the best part. Much depends on one's point of view, and mine, as you might imagine, requires some refinement. Do you need a day? A day? Well, how kind of you to offer, Dearborn replies. If that sets me to right, I would have it, but I fear it'll be not so. I must find my peace with these burials and men who consecrate the ground. He lights another cigarette from the first and then lets the spent stub fall to join the others on the ground. You understand, of course, that my family fought for the Confederacy. Fucking traitor! And so did half of Virginia. I suppose you're right. In several ways, he replies. A hint of a grin flickers as he mulls over the statement a second time. I do not think better men have ever fought for a worse cause. Slavery? Slavery, he echoes grimly. I'm not one of Professor Dunning's revisionists to turn a bad war into a good one. Before the unpleasantness, Edgehill had 600 Negroes in bondage, and 5 men of my family fought to keep them in bondage. It cannot be a pleasant truth, but when one can see an old whipping post from one's bedroom window, it becomes one which cannot be ignored. He takes a drag from his cigarette and eyes a distant as if seeing the very past. Most of the rest of my family, as you may expect, are of differing disposition. The truth offends them, and I reckon they are baffled as to why it does not offend me, he says. My great-grandfather commanded a regiment in the Army of Northern Virginia. When I was a boy, my grandfather showed me the journals he kept. I suppose he meant to instill the appropriate measure of pride in my heritage, yet all I could see was a catch-log of errors, of foolish mistakes, of men dead, battles lost because of poor decisions. I mean, hindsight is 20/20. Perhaps his journals are written to be post-war. There were entries that raised eyebrows, Dearborn admits. Certainly the cadence changed and grammar improved, yet even so. His mouth tightens in a hard and bitter line as he takes another drag. When I was a boy, I had thought that if I could only have been in his place, I would have made a better decision. I would have avoided his mistakes. I would have done what he couldn't. When we entered this war, I thought the same. You're on the right side already. That's an improvement. It is something, I suppose, Dearborn replies warily. Yet even so, justice does not impart competence. It cannot reach down through the shell fire and the chaos like the hand of God and show us the right way forward. Though I wish it could. Every battle, every skirmish, every assault, I still see all the men who would still be alive if I had only made a different and better decision. Dearborn, you're one of the best lieutenants I have. You're the only infantry commander I have left from the start. Does it help, refighting every battle like that? I thought so at first. It seemed to stand to reason that if I avoided the mistakes I'd made before, things would get easier, simpler. But now I'm not so sure. Turn one way to avoid an ambush and step into a minefield. Order your men to cover and they are hit by mortars. Every decision seems the wrong one, and every time men die. Dearborn turns away so you do not see the tears rolling down his cheeks. God, how many men have I lost to my own incompetence, and how many of them have I failed? War is chaos. You can't outsmart chaos. Dearborn says nothing. The cigarette in his mouth burns toward a stub. There's an argument there, he says at last. The tears are merely damp upon his cheeks. Millions await liberation, and we must press forward even in adversity. Alright, so his combat fatigue dropped by 30. I guess that's at least useful. Now you must consider the days ahead. The men want to do nothing and eat hot chow and sleep on a dry cot without anyone shooting at them. There's even the luxury of a movie or two. Your officers need to be involved in training and planning. Nickel Company can't just take a break, not while there's still a war on. But every man has his limit. If they can't unwind now, then it may hurt them later. There's many things you could do. Train the men personally, take care of paperwork, which always seems to pile up, or take some time away to unwind. First Sergeant Grant can manage the routine things after all. -10, -15. Test professionalism to reduce paperwork. I don't think I have a very good professionalism score. So probably not that one. I'm gonna take some time off. Train the men. I don't get the bonus later. I want to know what the bonus later is. The men undergo only the most routine of training. The mess hall becomes a favorite place for them. Company XP -10. You leave the company paperwork entirely to Grant. Eventually he runs out of places to hide the piles. Oh no. The days pass and you finally finish up on accounting of the landing with the lessons learned. Knock at the door and you find Private Roberts standing at the threshold. What is it, Private? First squad just pulled up the Grimaldi family wagon out of a ditch, and Papa Grimaldi invited us over for dinner. Officers too, sir. The house is just down the road, and well, the guys want to take some of them up on that. Be a chance to get some home cooking or something different anyway. Why'd they send you to ask? I think the fellows are interested in the Grimaldi daughters, Roberts says. He absently twists the steel wedding ring wrapped around his finger. I mean, I don't doubt they're expecting anything from a dinner, but they're still thinking about it. But not you? No, Captain. My wife writes me regular like. I'm only thinking of her. After Roberts is dismissed, First Sergeant Grant steps in. A dinner, Captain, he asks. Like a good first sergeant, he always keeps an ear out. I mean, army noodles and powdered cheese and ketchup are no match for actual pasta. The men all know that all too well, but it seems strange that the Grimaldi family is eager to feed so many. What are you worried about? Not worried, First Sergeant Grant says. Just concerned. How is that different? No, be worried. That'll save time. Sure, I'll go. Tinned milk, bring a book. What else do I have? I mean, chocolate would be the obvious thing for the kid, right? Really? Tinned milk? Like, they live on a freaking farm, don't they? They probably have milk. Stern intends to bring a big tin of condensed milk for the kid. Dearborn is predictably focused on after-dinner enjoyment with bourbon. Rao acquired a rather large tin of spiced ham. Cameron is bringing a sack of flour. American tobacco is prized, isn't it? I'll bring a ball and glove. I know we're not, it's not a soccer ball, but... Okay. America's greatest invention. Is this Spam? Yes, it is. We used to eat Spam growing up. How many of you in the chat watching this, how many of you ate Spam growing up? Not like a regular thing, but my mom liked to make Spam sandwiches. First sergeant becoming? It wasn't invited. What about Camera's gift? Just like back home. Okay. Reciprocate. It's a polite hug. When you separate them, he's clearly amused. I like America, he says in passable English. I'm Lorenzo, Captain. Camera expedites the rest of the introductions. There's 3 young boys full of energy, Leonardo, Alberto, and Raphael. There's also 6 girls, from a young woman in her late teens named Natalia to little Anne, who is but a fidgety toddler. The weary matriarch is Sephirina, or rather Miss Grimaldi, and she directs her husband to say instead. She also motions for him to speed things up. Apparently dinner is getting cold. Okay, cool. We not have many games now. Well, it'll be good for your kids then. Okay. Miss Grimaldi likes Camera's spiced ham, or whatever, his flour. Rao gives the spiced ham. They're not impressed by it, but they act appreciative. Stern has passed over his cans of condensed milk. Miss Grimaldi inspects it with appreciative eye. Dearborn offers the bottle of bourbon. They share a laugh. And okay. The table is set with light blue plates that bear an intricate, if repetitive, design. Silverware isn't silver. Tablecloth is lacy. And we sit down. Miss Grimaldi disappears into the kitchen along with her older girls. They return moments later with what looks to be little balls of fried breadcrumbs. Okay. Was made with oranges? Not with fruit. The color is how they're cooked. Okay. Breadcrumbs are crunchy, the rice is coherent, and the interior is filled with the cheese and cooked peas. It's delicious. Okay. We used tomatoes as they were ripe. Is there a long story about this dish? There is, Lorenzo says. It go very far back. A screecher breaks just outside diverts your attention. Your men push away from the table and grab their weapons by reflex. The Grimaldi family scurries to the rear of the house. Through a window you see a jeep and a truck with a half-dozen military policemen armed with Chicago-style submachine guns. I'm assuming those are Thompsons. Go outside and meet them. You head toward the front door as you jerk it open. A grim sergeant rolls inside and comes up with his weapon ready. That no one fires a shot is something of a miracle. His eyes narrow as he notices your insignia. Captain, he says in tones that belong in the Arctic. With a deliberate shift, he pivots so that you can see he has stripes and diamonds of a first sergeant. They've been recently sewn on. Okay. First sergeant slings his weapon. The movement deliberately draws attention to his black MP armband. Captain, I'm First Sergeant Barnum, and we're conducting a raid on a suspected site containing stolen army property. The order comes from division. Division, not regiment, and certainly not battalion. Barnum is answering to those so high above your company that you'd need binoculars to see them, but he'll still have to be polite to you. Roberts lowers his weapon as the implication becomes clear. After a moment, Crossley does the same for his bar. Morris and Patterson look to each other before they follow suit. The MPs stack up in the doorway and peer wearily inside. Your men study them with a critical eye from behind far better cover. Gotta admire the men's style, Stern says quietly. How long have you been a first sergeant? That feels a little aggressive. Let me see your paperwork. Yes, Captain, Sergeant Barnum says. He retrieves folded up squared paper from a front pocket and passes it over with crisp formality. Quick glance finds everything to be in order. A phone call to division could confirm it, but the nearest line is back in your billet. How long you been a first sergeant? Since Palermo, couple days back. A general signed off, Barnum says. His grin could be made of ice. The paperwork is all in order. I'm going to call back to division. Fine by me, but I'm not in your chain of command, Captain. My men will begin their search now. With a gesture, he boldly sends his men inside. Your own soldiers mutter that the MPs tromp past their dusty boots. The entryway doesn't stay clean for long. Your men hold their fire. No one wants to kill a fellow American, even green MPs. The Grimaldi women are silent and stone-faced. Lorenzo and his boys are clearly angry at the affront, but they say nothing. Sergeant Barnum raises an eyebrow as you turn toward him. What do you think of those orders? I think I can execute them, First Sergeant. You think the family's guilty? I think I don't care. Caring is not my job. You do care about your men, though. Just so we're clear, Captain, First Sergeant Barnum says as you turn to go, I can get on the horn and have a major come down from division to help us sort things out. I'd rather not do that because he'll yell at me almost as bad as he'll yell at you, but I will do it if you get in my way. I've got no problem arresting officers. Hell, some of my men kind of like it. Out of the back of the house inside a big wood barn, one painted white, there's a hay-packed step that leads to the iron door that's a bank vault. Okay. This is where we hide our priceless things from thieving fascists. What's in there now? Many things. They all belong to us. We are Mafia. What? Lorenzo says and holds up a hand. In America, this is bad, but in Sicily, it is good. Who fights the black shirts? Who pays ransoms? Who sees that families not starve when Mussolini, he take all? Before the Mafia, no one would stand up except communists, and they, he spat on the ground. We glad America here. Americans not take. They give. Many gifts, many good trades. We steal nothing. Bad times are past. Our thing helped us survive bad times. And you know, I have lost one son. Another is caged, but my Stefano, he come home. Lorenzo calls out the name Stefano from the other side of the door. A bolt shifts and the door opens a crack, and a scraggly lad, barely able to shave his head, is revealed. Okay. Barnum gives the order, and the MPs pour past the boy into the vault. Inside you can see boxes and crates, several of which are definitely Army issue. Illegal possession of Army property and harboring an enemy soldier, one Stefano Grimaldi. He's a son, though. He's not... I don't know. It seems unnecessary. Barnum's doing his job. The family is Army goods, is hiding an enemy soldier, and belongs to a crime syndicate. But Lorenzo is protecting his family, and the Mafia were the only ones to oppose Mussolini's black shirts. Moreover, the Army is going to be here a while, and local relations need to be considered. Your black and white world of combat has definitely gone gray. I just don't particularly like the sergeant more than anything. You can now ask them to do anything. Is Division thinking long-term here? Did you just fall off a turnip truck, sir? Doing the right thing by letting a bunch of mafiosos keep their loot and ignoring their combatant son is the stuff of some hack writer. I'm going to do my job and do it well. Well, shit. Okay, so... Camera fatigue plus 10. I, for one, respect the sergeant and his zealous undertaking of a direct duty. Fuck Rao. Dude's an asshole. You don't have to go about it that way. -10 trust. Great.
Company commander wanted us to go out at night on a point that would be close to German lines. He wasn't quite sure where the German lines were, and neither were we, but we went out about 10 o'clock at night to through some vineyards and to a point where we thought would maybe be a good observation point.
All right, 23:30, 9th of October, 1943. Carbine clutch tight, you edge through the brush with eyes fixed on the back of Corporal Crossley in the front of you. Big man silhouetted by the pale glow of the gibbous moon. His hand rises at the stop signal. Another hand signals pass down the line. Someone wants you up front. You creep forward to find your battalion commander crouched low behind a seat of scratchy bushes waiting for you. Colonel Hendagus. He led from the front since battalion landed in Italy a month ago. Through the long wet slog over the mountains, he had marched with the lead company almost every single day. The colonel points toward a handful of dark shapes, German paratrooper helmets outlined against the shimmering moonlight surface of the river beyond. The first Germans you've seen since arriving in Italy, and there's only a few hundred yards away. What's the next step? Looks like Kraut's ahead. He just turns to his radio man and whispers something too quiet for you to hear. The enlisted man nods, and moments later is a hissing request for a fire mission into his helmet, handset. A minute later, the sound of tearing linen rips across the night sky. The ground shakes as fists of thunder flame pound the earth, filling the darkness with fire and screams. Your survivors scramble away, dark shapes in the after images of the shell bursts. Almost by reflex, your carbine snaps to your shoulder. If you open fire now, you might be able to take the fleeing crowds down. Firing would give away our position. You force yourself to lower your weapon. The Germans will know that you got this near side of the river covered with artillery, but if you open fire, they'll know that you were scouting the crossing as well. Better to keep them in the dark about that. The important thing is that the Germans have been driven from the riverbank, and the way ahead is clear. We're here to cross the river. The name on the map is the Volturno River, a winding barrier smack dab at the regiment's way. The Germans know that too. The Krauts have seeded this bank with mines and have blown every bridge across the river. If the army wants to get across the Volturno, it'll have to secure the far bank with an infantry attack, so that the engineers can get tanks and guns across. To do that, brave men will need to find a crossing point for the infantry right under Jerry's nose. I will personally scout the crossing. Sure. General Truscott insisted the battalion commanders lead recon patrols themselves, and Colonel Hentigis is now insisting on bringing along a company commander too. He volunteered first. Hentigis checks his map, a poncho held over his head to keep the Germans from spotting the dull red gleam of his flittered flashlight. After a moment, he flicks the light off and folds the map and emerges. He points at a stretch of water just a little ways downstream. There, he whispers to you. That's our crossing. The river gleams silvery, slow and sedate at the indicated section. That's all to the good, given what is coming and what could be waiting on the other side. Give me the rope, Colonel Hentigis says as he steps forward. I'll go first. Sir, you're too valuable. Let me go. The colonel seems less than pleased, but after a moment of thought, he relents. It doesn't sit right with me, but you have a point. Your men watch silently. It's impossible to see their features in the dark. But now you'll have their respect for doing something brave, stupid, or both. A tug on the rope finds it securely anchored on this side. A step into the water, icy wet, seeps through your boots and soaks into your socks. +1 prestige, +10 combat fatigue, +10 trust. At least I got the trust back from the family I let down. The cold presses up against the back of your head like the tip of a sharpened bayonet as you wade in. The rope lies heavy in one hand and you swim with the other. Exhaustion mounts until the last river mud slithers beneath your soaked boots. As you scramble ashore and tie off the rope, the only good thought that lingers is that you do somehow hit a landmine. You'll be dead before you even notice. The colonel pulls you out, and when you reach the other side, when he slaps you on the back, you can feel the warmth of the blow spread up and down your frigid spine. Hell of a job, Captain, he says. Now take 5. It's our turn. The bitter cold is an old friend by the time the patrol returns to the camp, but a change of clothes and a trip to the mess tent changes all that. Colonel Hentigis has clearly used a little authority to have the cooks lay out a spread of freshly cooked steak, actual eggs, and the usual hash. Bottles of rum that at the table are clearly from his personal stash. Feast and recover. The colonel briefly, very briefly, toasts the patrol's success before you all dig in. 3 bites into it, and a new figure staggers in, disheveled and defeated, his weapon conspicuous by its absence. It's Major Duvall, and 2nd Battalion's commanding officer. Gentlemen, he rumbles with a weary desperation. I don't suppose any of you have noticed stray officers. Not every patrol went well, apparently. I'll let my colonel answer that. Jesus Christ, Everett, you look like shit. What the hell happened? Major Duvall's account grows soft with the telling, perked up only briefly with a tot of rum. A German patrol found him and his officers. He'd been captured, but he'd pickpocketed a grenade, which had then allowed his officers to scatter into the night. Once it became clear that none of you had seen any of his men and that he is likely in command, Duvall's visage hardens and he quietly excused himself. Next day, Colonel Henriquez assembles you and the other company commanders for a battalion briefing. This will be a division-scale operation. 2 days from now, the 7th will cross the river with most of the 15th. At 0:45, while the remainder of the 15th and 30th will launch diversionary attacks on our left. The colonel explains over a map spread on the table in front of you. 1st and 2nd battalions crossed first. Once they reach the high ground on the far side of the river, we will follow. Your fellow company commanders toss worried glances at each other. Word of what happened to the 2nd Battalion has already spread. They not lost nearly all of their officers, and apparently the brass means to spearhead the attack with an outfit missing a chunk of its leaders. Did 2nd Battalion scout their crossing? Colonel Henriquez frowns. Not yet, Captain. Major Duvall sent out a 2nd patrol last night, but they weren't able to get close to the river. He's going to try again tomorrow. Jesus Christ. I know, the colonel continues with a hint of bitterness. I've expressed my reservations to regiment, but General Truscott and Colonel Sherman... We pauses for just a moment before finding the right words again. Trust him, all right? Trust the process. Henriquez moves on and covers the orders for each individual company, one by one, until he comes to yours. Nickel Company will anchor the battalion's left flank. Once you get across the river, your objective is a hill called Mount Majulo. Okay. Extreme flank? Just what the Germans like. Advance up the western slope of the hill and make contact with Fox Company from 2nd Battalion. They should be to your right. Once you reach the hill, you'll hold it against any enemy counterattack. If the Krauts take that hill, they'll be able to put fire on every one of 3rd Division's crossing points. That cannot be allowed to happen at any cost. Now then, he says, as he shifts his gaze to the entire room. Questions? What kind of shape is Fox Company in? Not good. Their commander is still missing, which means that once you get to Mount Majerlo, you'll be the senior officer present. If Fox Company needs a hand, they'll probably be coming to you. Be prepared for that. What kind of counterattack can we expect? The Krauts know how important that hill is, too. They'll throw everything they can at you to get it back. Intelligence reports German armor in the area. Jesus Christ. We got tank destroyers on standby, but they won't be able to move until the engineers get our bridges across the river. Until then, you'll have to rely on artillery support and whatever weapons you have on hand. The other company commanders have questions about their responsibilities too, but not many of them. Within a few minutes, the briefing has run its course and you're headed back to brief your own platoon leaders. Okay. Brace the men. Equipment's checked and rechecked, and weapons are cleaned, and men are briefed on where to cross the river and how to cross the river and what to do afterwards. That night, word comes down from battalion. The attack's going to be delayed 24 hours. That's not good for the nerves, but finally you leave the staging area and head down to the river. Another day to prepare. Fine. As the sun sets on yet another day in Naples, First Sergeant Grant rustles the flap of your command tent. Trailing behind him is Private Ross. The lanky gunner lets out a sigh as he steps inside. Captain, something's wrong with Lieutenant Stern, Ross says. He's been up these past 2 nights, and it can't go on. I knew a guy who went 3 full days without sleep, Captain. First Sergeant Grant notes. It didn't kill him, but he did start talking to a table. I'll drop in on him. You find Stern in one of the allocated barracks, a 30 cal set out before him, a field stripped. Beside him is a steaming hot tin cup that smells strongly of coffee. When he glances up, his bloodshot eyes and vacant stare tell you exactly how he's been coping lately. How's the coffee? Hey, Captain. He absently takes up the coffee round, and then glances down as if surprised to find it in his hand. How have you been sleeping? Fine, Captain, just fine. How long's it been? 2, 3 days since things got bad, Stern says. When it becomes clear that this vague statement isn't enough, he adds, might be 4, but that's it. Long enough, then. The men need their leader. I want us to be clear on this. Okay. Okay, so we can't sleep. So nothing worked? What's the problem? Don't know, don't care. Thinking of where we're going? I guess we'll try sleeping pills. I'm worried he won't wake up from them. Someone at the evac hospital will help you get Stern what he needs. It's just a question of how much squawking there is before they say yes. -2 prestige, a few pills. Combat fatigue drops by 60. Jesus. For the second time in a week, you find yourself chest deep in freezing water. As you wade across the Volturno carbine held high in one hand, you guide the ropes with the other. The rest of your company follows behind, your way lit from time to time by the star shells bursting overhead. 1st and 2nd battalions had to deal with tracers, too. You saw them from the staging area. Streams of green from German MGs and storms of red going the other way, trying to silence them. Those enemy machine guns are silent now, even if their artillery still barks defiance from beyond the horizon, their shells landing blindly among the swarms of crossing GIs. Suddenly, the river explodes in a massive churning column. A thunderclap slams you off your feet and into the river. The Volturno floods into your mouth and your ears and your nostrils. Only your tight grip of the guide rope keeps you from being swept away. As you surface, shouts fill your ears. An inflatable raft that should have been in the rear of your company drifts past and sinks steadily into the deep water with all of its precious cargo. Oh, fuck. I'd rather get the bazookas. God damn it. I double-clicked again. Okay. Bazooka team will arrive here. Do we have mortars? MGs. Nope. Looks like we've only got one section of MGs, too. Great. Alright, so this is... got, what, 8 turns? Gotta take some ridge objectives here. Doesn't look like we have to push too far. Looks mostly like we gotta take the ridge. And then presumably deal with an enemy counterattack that's going to be coming our way. With that being said, I know we didn't actually fight this episode, but I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this here. We've been going for almost an hour. There was a lot of narration, not a lot of actual playthrough, but I think some interesting stuff happened. And our next video will probably be all just the next battle coming up. So I hope you guys enjoyed this look at Burden of Command. New turn-based, although it didn't feel like it in this episode. Narrative-based, definitely felt like it. World War II game. Until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you very much for watching once again, and until next time, I'm out.